everyone, and welcome back to another video. Today's video will be my July and August wrap-up. I never got around to filming a July wrap-up in August because I started a new job and it just got really busy and I never got around to it. But luckily, that's okay because I ended up reading 7 books in July, but I only read 2 books in August because of my crazy schedule. I have 9 books to talk about today, so let's jump into the video. The first book I ended up finishing in July was Winter Song by S.J. Jones. This is the first book that I read for the Book Junkie Trials readathon, which took place during the entire month of July. I had a great time doing that readathon, and I ended up completing the readathon. Like, I did it. I read all the books that I set for myself to read, so that's exciting. But this book was not so exciting. I ended up giving this book 2 out of 5 stars. It was very uncomfortable to read. The premise was great. I thought it was going to be a really great enemies to lovers novel. It did end up to be enemies to lovers, but it ended up being more of a Stockholm Syndrome vibe, and it kind of had a rapey scene going on in it, and I was just not okay with it at all. It made me very uncomfortable to read it, and it was not a progressive relationship in the sense of, like, you get to know each other and then you move forward and you see where it goes and see where it takes you. No, it was just like all of a sudden she was in love with the dude, even though he kidnapped her and forced her to be with him. So, if that's not Stockholm Syndrome, I don't know what is. But yeah, I was just not okay with this book. It made me very uncomfortable, and I do not recommend it at all. The next book I ended up reading was Angel Fall by Susan E. This was not originally part of my TBR, but I had bought it from Depop from a girl, and I was just really excited to read it. This is a post-apocalyptic novel that is surrounding a war between angels and humans. And there's a romance between an angel and a human, and I'm here for it. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. It was just such a fun read, and it's been a while since I've read a dystopian novel, especially one that features angels. Our main character, Pemron, is on a search for her sister who is kidnapped by an angel, and along the way she finds another angel named Rafi who is injured, and she saves him for her own purposes, but then ends up falling in love with him. You know how it goes. It's great. But yeah, I just really enjoyed this novel, and I can't wait to get to the other 2 books in the trilogy. The next book I picked up is actually a graphic novel, and it is Deadly Class. This is a graphic novel centered around a group of people who go to a school to become assassins, and it's great. It's such a fun ride, but also I will say that there is a lot of gore in this. There's also hints of bestiality in here in regards to the villain and his backstory. You never actually see it, but there's hints of it, so trigger warning for that, as well as gore and violence, because there's quite a bit in here. If you're not bothered by those things in novels, I definitely recommend this book. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it, and the illustrations and the artwork is just so good. Let me find a good one here for you, if you can see that. There you go. I really enjoyed this, and I can't wait to get to the rest of the series. There's quite a bit of them. The next book I finished in July was Promise of Blood by Brian McKellen. This is the first book in the Powder Mage trilogy. This is an adult high fantasy novel set in a world where magic revolves around the use of gunpowder. It is also set in kind of an Industrial Revolution era. Along with the gunpowder magic, there is also some elemental magic, and there's creatures and demons and otherworldly beings that is just, it just makes this novel so good. I was not expecting it to like this as much as I did. I actually didn't know really what I was getting into. I thought it was just going to be a kind of revolutionary novel where there's just gunpowder magic. But there's so much more to it than that. The characters are awesome. I loved every single one of them, even the bad ones, as in the evil ones. I love them, and they just have such a good development in this, and I just cannot wait to pick up the rest of the trilogy and then go into the spin-off series. I really enjoyed this one. The next book I picked up was Charley Bone and the Red Knight by Gianni Nemo. This is the 8th and final book in the Charley Bone series. This is a series that is kind of like Harry Potter, however it's more for younger readers. I thought this book was a good conclusion to the series as I've been reading it since I was in 3rd grade. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I won't go too into detail about this one in particular because it is the last one in the series, but if you're interested in this series, it is featuring a bunch of young kids going to a school to either go into arts or music or drama, but some of the students are also endowed, and by endowed I mean that they have abilities. So one person can control weather, one person can call his ancestors up and make them fight for him, and it's just an adventure, and it's so good. And of course there's bad guys all over, and I just really enjoy this. I will say that when you go into reading this, you have to go into it with an open mind, knowing that it is for younger readers, because while I was reading this, I kind of forgot that fact, in a sense, and I was just like, wow, this is like so cliche, and this writing is so not the best, but then I was like, oh, it's because it's for younger readers. It doesn't excuse bad writing, but it makes more sense when things are explained to you in this way that they are in this book and in this series. So yeah, just have an open mind. I really enjoyed it. It's awesome. The next book I read was actually Stardust by Neil Gaiman. I listened to this book on audiobook as I did not have a copy of it for my own reading pleasure. I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars. I did enjoy it. It was definitely like listening to a adult fairy tale. Felt like I was just being told this fairy tale from way back in the day, and it was just a fun adventure. Stardust is about a young man who falls in love with his childhood friend, falls in love, and he decides that he's going to bring back a fallen star for her to show that he loves her and is committed to her. And so it's about him journeying into like fairyland basically to find the star that he watched fall. And then other things happen. There's other storylines, there's witches, there's other creatures, there's fae, there's little gnomes and stuff. And yeah, it's a really weird book, but I did enjoy it. I've heard a lot of different opinions on this. You either really love it or you really hate it. And I feel like I'm still like in the middle of it because I did enjoy it because it reminded me of a fairy tale. So I have heard that the movie is amazing and even better than the book. So I really need to check that out because I did enjoy the book. So we'll see. And the final book I read in July was Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha Nyong. This is a young adult fantasy novel that also has an FF romance in it. And I was just like so in love with it. It was so cute and so good. I will say that there is rape in this, so trigger warning for that. There are quite a few scenes in this story. If you don't know what this is about, it follows a young woman who becomes a paper girl for the emperor or king. I don't really know what they call it. But yeah, she is from the paper caste, which is the humans. It's the lowest rung on this caste ladder. The other ones are more full-blown, they call them demons, but they kind of have like all these animalistic features. And the king is a bull, I think, in a way. He does have human features, but he's mainly a bull. But yeah, each year he has 8 paper girls, and he pretty much uses them as his courtesans and concubines, and it's really strange. Not all of them want to be a paper girl, and especially our main character here. There's magic in this, as well as different caste systems, and the love story between our main character and this other paper girl is just so good, and I really enjoyed it, and I cannot wait to read the second book. So this one I did end up giving 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed this. So those are all the books that I finished in July. Now on to the books that I read in August. So I only read 2. Let's dive into it. The first one I ended up reading was Foundry Side by Robert Jackson Bennett. I actually started this last year in like November, and I finally finished it in August, so yay. I really enjoyed this adult fantasy. And I don't know why it took me so long to read it. I think I was just kind of not into the mood to pick it up, even though I was really enjoying it. I feel like these past 2 months are the months of 4 stars for me, because this is another 4-star read for me. I love the writing in this, and I love the characters, and I love the action. Our main character is a thief, and she kind of has this special ability where she is able to communicate with objects, and that's part of the magic system and the science in this book. She ends up stealing a particular artifact, and now people want her dead, and it's just about her trying to survive and meeting up with friends and just trying to figure out how to survive in this world, as well as what's really going on with this artifact and why she's hearing this voice in her head from this artifact. And I just really enjoyed it. That was a really crappy explanation, but I did really enjoy it. I love the characters, like I said, and there is also the hints that the main character is potentially gay, so there's that as well. And then the final book that I have to talk about is There Will Come a Darkness by Katie Rose Poole. This is a young adult fantasy novel. They came out September 3rd, but I ended up reading the arc like a week before that. And let me tell you, I'm so glad I did, because this was definitely one of my more anticipated novels of the year, and I really enjoyed it. It was another 4 out of 5 star read for me. I tabbed it up here with some of my favorite quotes and just magic parts and world building things all throughout here. But I definitely really enjoyed this. If you don't know what this book is about, it follows 5 characters, so there are 5 different perspectives, and they are all somehow fitting into this prophecy. And whether or not that prophecy means that they are going to save the world or end it, we'll see. I believe this is a debut novel, and I feel like you can kind of tell there are some parts in here where it didn't really flow correctly and didn't really mesh well with the rest of the book, and I feel like that is something that this author can really work on. However, the story was still amazing, and I still cannot wait to see where the rest of it goes. I was shocked at a few parts, I was excited by a few parts, and the potential for romance in this is on point. So yes, I really enjoyed this novel, and I highly recommend you give it a shot, because I did, and it was great. So there you all have it. That was my July and August wrap up. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Please let me know down below if you read any of these books and what you thought about them. I would love to know. Also, what was maybe one of your favorite books that you read in the past couple months? I would also love to know that. So please like, comment, subscribe, do all that fun YouTube stuff, and I will see you all next time. Bye!